And I saw Chris Medina in here. I think we heard Anthony in the background from Lawyers. Thank you guys for sponsoring and supporting not only myself, but my home group as a whole. We love you guys. And Sammy, it's happy to see your pretty little face on a Monday. I'm already on like my 4th appointment of the day. So we will go right into this. Today, are we good to get started, Kelly?
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to be covering number one, what sets you apart as an agent. And the other part to that is how to make an offer stand out. So I'm sure you guys are out there writing contracts and ready to beat your head against the wall because offers are coming in, multiple offers along with above list price. And we're seeing this especially in properties under 450,000, but even some of those midline prices, I've seen it as well. So how to present yourself to be the best offer on the table. You would think it's always price. I don't think that that's the case necessarily all of the time. We have been able to get properties to our clients that we weren't the best price on the table, and the reverse of that. We've been the best price on the table and they didn't take our offer. So I think it's important that we look at that as a whole. How many of you guys would say that you've written in the past month offers that you're on maybe offer number 5 or 6 or better for a client because you've been up against multiples? Is that something you guys are all, can we agree that is challenging for you? And we will watch the chat box. I'm going to assume it's yes, because my team and I just got done spending an hour talking about this. And now we're going to talk about it on here. So let's first go into, I want to cover the offer portion first. And then I want to talk about you guys as agents and how you can set yourself apart. Yes, Kathleen, yes, she said yes with all capitals. So yes, we know it's a challenge right now, okay? So I'm going to go over a few things. Again, as you guys are used to, I talk pretty quick. So if I don't cover something enough and you want me to cover it more, definitely reach out in the chat and I will follow up with your questions. And before we segment into why you as an agent, we'll go over this category one more time and give you a chance to ask questions. So very first and foremost, I think the most important thing that I can recommend you do up front is be prepared and call the listing agent. Do not just prepare an offer and send it over. You know what your offer is going to be. Call the listing agent. This is where we're going to sell. If anybody tells you you're good at selling houses, this is where you sell them. You're not going to sell a house to a client, right? The client knows what they like. You're going to help match them up with features and stuff to properties that fit, but you are not going to sell anything really until you sell this offer. And this is where calling the listing agent and knowing your data and your facts and everything else, but be prepared to strongly present not only yourself, your client, and your offer. Those are the 3 key ingredients here. As a listing agent, their concern is what? Are we going to get this file to close? As a listing agent, it's frustrating. You feel like things are out of your power and out of your control. Really, it truly feels to me, and many times as a listing agent, I have to trust that the other agent that we've selected will fully not only represent their client, but have the ability to get this file to closing. And there's so many ins and outs in that, right? Not negotiating up front, but then the ends are negotiating, the appraisal, the lender that they've chosen, is the lender going to comply? And all of these other elements are going to weigh on the decision of which offer my clients choose. Now, I'm not going to tell my clients, I do have some clients that are going to say, Torie, I've worked with you enough times, you're going to point out the best, and I'll look them all over, but I'm going to go with your judgment and your recommendation. But many of the times I'm going to list out and I'm going to columnize all the offers and I'm going to show my client exactly what we have, but then I'm also going to tell them the agent and what, the agent, the offer, and the buyer. We're going to cover those 3 things. So when you're selling yourself, right, it comes down to, have you discussed with your buyer the inspection period, what that inspection period's for? Does it mean we nitpick and we're going to take a house and make it a brand new home? Absolutely not, right? We're buying a property. We're concerned about the major components and things that may not be working. This is not a chance to upgrade the property. It's just simply a chance to fix the things that are major important that are not working properly. If any of you guys, and no offense, but if you've worked with Gen Z buyers, this is the hardest buyer group that I have faced, getting them to understand that the Benzer does not mean that the roof needs a couple $100 in repairs. Let's ask for a whole new roof. But prepare your clients up front and do not get to the inspection period, at the wrap up, and this is not the time to have that discussion for the first time. So that's something that I do up front with buyers in a buyer consult before I ever even start working with clients is I kind of prepare them for the process of buying. And then I'm going to, when I call that agent, I'm going to tell them, listen, I've closed over 100 homes every year. This is how I do things. I explain to them that my buyers have been had a very lengthy discussion of what the inspection period is for. We talk about me, myself as an agent, that I definitely inform my clients. They know what's coming. They know what to expect. They also understand that in a market with short supply of inventory, we may face an appraisal challenge. So both myself and the listing agent, again, if we're selected, I'm going to have that discussion with them of, I've pulled these comps and you've pulled these comps. We've got them prepared in the event that we do have an appraisal issue. And again, appraisers are not necessarily the ones that are staying up on what the market is doing and why, properties are selling above list price. 23% of properties June so far, just this month so far, have sold above list price. That tells us that the competition is strong out there, right? So I'm pitching myself, and then I'm going to pitch my offer. I'll give you an example. I pitched one last night that was a 3% down. Now, in my opinion, again, if I've talked to the lender and the buyer can qualify for 3% down, it tells me they're a pretty strong credit profile. So when I explained this offer to the other agent, I explained to them they're choosing 3% down. The reason they're going 3% down is they have the funds, but they're coming from a smaller apartment and they're going into a bigger home and they want to buy all new furniture. So they want to leave those funds available to do so. Obviously, I get all of this in approval with my client before I present that, but I want to go over the offer as a whole. I go over with them the list price, the down payment. There's nothing I don't discuss with them because I'm not embarrassed, or neither do I want the listing agent to feel that I'm embarrassed of the offer and I just want to get it over to them. If they've got 5, 6, 7, 8 offers coming in, how are you going to stand out? How are you going to be the offer that they place emphasis on? And that at least they remember, I talked to that Torie and I know what her clients are offering. And even when they've got 9 in front of them, I have done certain things to continue to put myself at forefront of mind. So the very next thing after I pitch that offer is I get my lender on the phone, right? And I have my lender pick up the phone and call the listing agent. It's powerful. Even if they don't answer, the lender can then leave a voicemail. Just wanted to go over the fact that buyer X is very well qualified and all of the things, again, why this buyer is solid. So now I've pitched, my lender has called the listing agent. Then the next thing I'm going to do when I'm on the phone with this listing agent, are many of you guys using Transaction Desk yet? Or are you guys still DocuSign or other? If you guys are using Transaction Desk, it's something that we converted to, figured we'd get it in before everyone else, before all the questions flood. And we've been effective and using it now for several months. It's very efficient. I love it. At first, I thought it was going to make me crazy, but once you get into it and use it frequently, I think you'll find that it's pretty efficient, and we do like using it. But I explained to the listing agent, in a matter of efficiency, I am going to copy you on Transaction Desk. If you reply to that email, it won't necessarily come back to me. So as soon as we hang up, I'm going to text you my name, my client's name, and my email. Now, again, all I'm presenting is that I am on top of this. I am the agent that is going to stay on top of things, and I can get this file to closing, and I'm going to follow through with everything I'm doing and telling you I'm going to do. Then the minute I hang up, that's exactly what I do. I text the agent, hi, this is Torie Ellens. I'll be submitting an offer for your property on X. My buyer's name is X. And this is my email. If there's anything, if you review it, you have any questions, please let me know. On Transaction Desk, I customize the invitation specific to the listing agent. To my clients, it's going to say offer and docs on X property. To the listing agent, it's going to say, depending on what I've written, right? If I'm writing above full price or escalation clauses, and we'll talk about that, that's literally what the title of the email is going to say to the listing agent. Above full price offer with escalation clause, all capital letters, from Torie Ellens. Again, I've texted them. Now they're seeing my name on the Transaction Desk, and I'm watching the Transaction Desk for the minute my client completes signing, and then I text that agent again. The offer is in your email, and it's titled X. So I'm very thorough, maybe too thorough for some, but I'll tell you what, it has helped me many times stand out because most agents aren't going to do this. Most agents just want to get the contract in, and they're not worried about taking the time to push why their client, why their offer, and how am I going to set myself apart from everyone else out there. The biggest thing you can know is that you have to adapt, right? This is what we had to do during when we were shut down, or when we had to do more virtual showings. Everything in business is adapting. If you're not adapting, you're dying. So right now we're adapting to writing multiple offers, or receiving multiple offers, going up against multiple offers, and then escalation clauses and appraisal protection. Now, before you, again, before you do this, you should already have had the discussion with your clients pre-writing an offer. Remember, guys, when you get to writing an offer, there's a few things that happen with the buyer. They're super excited. They found the home that they absolutely.
Boss man, how you doing, buddy?
Okay, here we go. They found the home that they love. They're really excited, and they just want it so bad, and they're ready to write the offer. Number one, that's not the time to talk anything more than the finances of the offer. It's not the time to start explaining, oh, the closing costs, or oh, this, or oh, that. You want to have that discussion up front in that buyer consult. Having them educated on the process and how things are going to happen. Again, I shared with you on the last class, I provide them with a sample contract, and I tell them, please review this. Please make sure you look it over. I don't need you to be an expert. I am, but I want to get any questions you have answered now. Because when we write this offer, it's going to be a matter of like 15 minutes, electronic signing, and boom, it's to the other agent. That's not the time I want you to see this contract for the first time. So when we talk about escalation clauses and appraisal protection, when I'm in that buyer consult, I just tell people, we are seeing, and I use stats. In April, it was X%. May, it was X. In June, so far, 23%. We are seeing properties go above list price with multiple offers. So we want to be able to position ourselves to stand out right up front. If they don't have the ability to do this, I understand, but these are some of the things that we are writing in, and I'm seeing them not only on my listings, but I'm seeing them for my buyers, and I'm seeing them be effective. If an agent says to you they're not comfortable with the escalation clause, I would ask them why, and listen to what their concern is. Because if an escalation clause gives their clients more money in their pocket, I'm not sure why a listing agent would be opposed to that. So typically when they say they're not comfortable with it, there's something else behind it that we can get to the issue, and I can conversate, explain through, and work around, right? But an escalation clause, I'm not sure or if you guys are familiar. Are many of you using escalation clauses? Yes, no, are you familiar with what they are? I'm going to watch here, because I think the escalation clause is one that you want to have very specific verbiage. You don't want to just escalate the purchase price. You want to make sure you're protecting your client in doing so, making sure that the third party, or that the seller provides you that third party offer for approval prior to escalating your price, and obviously being able to block out the third party offer's name for protection. Escalation clauses. So yep, we've got one of you that says you do. So here's an escalation clause. Essentially it says, the buyer, is willing to pay X above, whether that's 500 or 1,000, above the highest third party competing net offer, and then a maximum price. Now I have seen I've been a part of a few contracts lately. There was no escalation max price. Now, if you do that, understand that if you forget to put a max price, usually I cap mine at about 10K, but that's not always the case. You've got to be able to, one, talk about the fact that if the property doesn't appraise for that escalation price variance, what's going to happen? Because as a listing agent, I'm concerned about that, right? You have to see if there's an ability for that buyer to pay that difference if it doesn't appraise. So if I escalated by 10K, can my buyer pay that variance between list price and escalated price out of their pocket? But don't just throw an escalation clause and not be prepared for the challenges you may face. So one, is there a max price, what that max price is, and then making sure that you give the seller the right to protect the third party privacy name and all that, but then provide you with a copy of that highest offer prior to escalating your price and you approving it. And then as well in that appraisal protection, and I've seen this different ways. So we wrote one yesterday where I literally escalated the price by 10K. And in that escalation, I said that if the property fails to appraise for the escalated price of X, that the buyer would pay cash/certified funds the variance between the list price and the escalated price, again, with a maximum of that X dollar amount. But I've also seen appraisal protection that states if the property fails to appraise up to $10,000, let's say, of the sales price, that the buyer will pay that in cash or certified funds. Now, I understand, guys, not all buyers, especially your buyers that are needing closing costs or maybe are first-time buyers, not all buyers are going to be able to do this. But make sure that you have this discussion with your clients up front. If they can do it, this is a very strong option to present to people. So somebody just asked the difference between list price and offered or accepted price. So what I'm referring to, I think maybe you're asking as far as the appraisal, is that what you're asking me? Yes, okay. So when I offer with appraisal protection, basically in the case where I've escalated, I will define that we're going to pay the difference between the list price. So let's just say it was $365 and we've escalated to $375, or the potential escalation. Then I'm going to define that my buyer will pay the difference between list price and the escalated price, meaning because we don't know at that point what the escalated price would be, but with a maximum of X. So if I've escalated to $375, then I would define out the buyer will pay the difference. If the property fails to appraise, the buyer will pay the difference in cash or certified funds between the list price of $365 and the potential or the escalated price up to a maximum of $375. Okay, did that answer that? Okay. So depending on what, again, so if I go into something where, for instance, the one I wrote yesterday, brand new to market, they had tons of showings, but they didn't have any offers in hand, I still escalated that and potential escalation of up to 10K with that protection in there. If I know that we're going in above already, then the escalation price is again something I need to set with my buyers. So if we know there's multiple offers and we come in 5,000 above list, but my client still will escalate an additional 10,000, having that discussion with the buyers of what they're comfortable with has to happen up front. And make sure you explain it clearly. What you don't want to do is get a buyer who goes, oh yeah, we'll escalate to 375, and the appraisal comes in at 365 and you haven't had that discussion and the deal falls apart. Listing agent is furious, buyers are furious, sellers furious, everybody's unhappy. Make sure you address it up front. Not everybody has the ability to pay that difference, but make sure you address it up front. I think I got that. Okay. Now, a lot of the buyers, I don't know, depending on the source, a lot of buyers may come to you already qualified with a lender. And then obviously you have that discussion of, listen, having the lender that's going to be able to protect you throughout this process, meet the deadlines of the contract, provide the LSUs when needed. We just had a buyer last week that every step with this lender, it was her lender. We tried to get her over. We had her do the normal process to a lender that I knew would take better care of her. It didn't happen. She went with her lender, and every step of the process was a fight. I literally had emails and texts that I had to copy and paste over to my buyer to get her lender to comply with the contract. And every step was a fight. He said to me, I'm too busy for this. And again, now I've got the ability to show the buyer, like, hey, I need your help because your lender says he's too busy for this. And this isn't something you can be too busy for. So make sure that one of the things that you can approach is if they come over already approved with a lender, that you have them talk to your lenders, and show the other listing agent that, hey, this buyer has been approved with multiple lenders. This is not just one lender, especially if it's some lender that is like online that you're not sure of. Have them the ability to show that they're qualified with another lender, and you've got that other lender. If they don't go with, ABC lender, that you've got somebody in backup that can move this file forward quickly. So again, that's not going to make or break it, but it's just one other thing that you can do to show strength for your buyers. Then I'm going to end with something else, but the other portion of this is, are any of you guys familiar with the lender being able, most of you should, Be familiar with the fact that the lender can do a little bit of a rate bump and help you with concessions and closing costs. Are you guys all familiar with that? That is something that, um, believe it or not, a lot of agents are not seasoned enough to do that. So having a discussion with the lender and saying, hey, this is the rate you quoted. Is there any ability, if I'm going up against multiple and they need closing costs, this is specifically when you need someone that needs closing costs, and there's a lot of those out there, is there any ability to do a rate bump and they still qualify and are comfortable with payment and have you cover the closing costs on the backside? Now, again, if the buyer is going to finance their closing costs, they're going to usually up the sales price to do that. So one way or the other, they're going to pay more money than they would by financing their closing costs. But a rate bump with the lender is potentially something that can, again, get you the same end result, but not the traditional way of thinking about it. All right. And then lastly, on the offer. Nothing is worse than getting an offer with an agent that didn't double and triple check that offer, okay? Take an extra 5 minutes and review every single document to that offer. Take your listing and see, is the listing agent related to the seller? Is what unique features about this property? And worst case, just do a little check sheet. Get a piece of paper next to you and put listing agent related to seller. Whatever, ring system does not convey. Whatever the listing states that you know you've got to write in there, do that. Is there a septic? Is there a well? Is the, what about this property is unique? Have all of that, write the offer, and make sure that not only do you write it all in there once, but you go through and check it all. Then I usually do a third check as I'm dropping signature. Because again, you've just pitched to this agent, I'm professional, I'm thorough, I'm going to get this file to closing, my buyer's strong. All of these things are great. And then you send over a contract and it's missing check boxes and it's missing details. And, oh, you forgot to send your pre-qual, or, oh, you forgot to send the HOA addendum. All of these things, make sure that you've got covered. And it starts with looking at the listing. Again, if it's, I don't know how you guys operate. For me, I'm a write down checklist person. So start with that and make sure you've got all the details covered, and then take that, write the offer, double check it, triple check it when you're going in with the signatures, and then proceed. But nothing looks worse than saying how professional you are and how great you are and how good you're going to get this job done for, your buyers, and then you just screw up the contract. One thing that I have heard, and there's a fix for it, my more technical agents have figured that fix out. But if you guys are using Transaction Desk, there was something catching where it was changing the actual address and details. So if you've had that happen, there is a fix out there. If you guys, I haven't had it, but a couple of my agents were facing it and they figured out a fix to it. So if you've seen that on your Transaction Desk, just again, let me know and we'll get you the fix. But when you're checking on that third, the reason that it's good to check as you drop for signatures, that's when you're going to be able to make sure, again, that everything's stuck, the names, the address, the legal, and all the other files that needed for that contract. All right. Is there any questions before I move on why you as an agent? I'm going to give you guys just a few minutes. Quiet group today. Last time the chat box was blowing up. All right, I'll give it just another minute just in case. And again, you guys, I'm always here. Like, I know a lot of people reached out right afterwards, and I'll give you my cell number at the end again. Something I, really believe is that we as agents, we have to constantly be moving ourselves to the next level, constantly be educating and growing and adapting and showing, the industry as a whole that we're not just a bunch of people who do one home a year that don't care about the quality, that we care about our clients, we care about the process, and our industry as a whole, we're a professional industry. So I'm big on training, and it's something with my agents that's very important to me, that we all present a certain way and that we stay educated. So if you guys need anything, again, I'll provide you with my cell number at the end. All right, so why you as an agent? You guys first and foremost need to figure out what sets you apart. I can tell you for me, I have, you know, a lot of years of confidence and knowing the data and the facts and being able to quickly present that when I meet someone for the first time. So why me as an agent? Because I'm in this market daily. I know this market like the back of my hand. I'm going to be watching properties with you, not just sending you blank emails that are properties that don't fit, but I know this market well. And I'm going to be educating you throughout the process on things that may potentially impact you, whether it be negative or positive. I'm going to keep you up to speed throughout the whole process. So that starts with your home search. When I set up a home search for people, I'm not just setting them up on a Boomtown or a Flex or whatever you use and blindly sending that out. I tell people, in addition to this, I'm going to be watching for off markets, coming soons, and anything that hits, because they're not glued to their phone like we are. So the minute a property hits for one of my clients, I'm going to text them. If it stands out, guys, did you see this one? It's hot. We should get in there today. How quickly can you be there? When can we get this done? So I'm not just waiting on my computer to find them a home. It's one of the complaints I hear from clients that come over from different sources. Maybe they were referred, or we were working with someone else. I had to do all the work. You don't want your client to feel like they're doing all the work. You are the expert. You're the ones that should be driving the ship at all times. Find them properties. Make sure, even though they're getting those searches and those updates, make sure you are personally going through and evaluating properties and getting them in front of them. Now, if it's a search where it's like, man, this is going to be a needle in a haystack, I'll still check in and say, guys, I'm still watching. There's just been not many that have hit, but I am still watching for you. And the ones that I have seen didn't have quite the details we were looking for. So I'm going to still be reaching out proactively so they know I'm on top of it. Communication, we talked about too in the last class, but what sets you apart, start with what you're going to be doing for them. This is not about opening a door and just showing property. When you're showing those properties, again, this is an opportunity for you to set yourself apart, because I cannot tell you how many times I hear from clients, wow, I've worked with a lot of agents, or I've worked with other agents, and none of them did the things you just did. I walk into a home and I'm literally dissecting that home. And what I tell my clients right up front is that I am going to be pointing out things that may potentially negative impact to this property, future resale, whatever it is. It does not mean that it has to matter to you, but it simply means that I'm going to point it out. If it matters, great. If it doesn't, great. At least I did my job in telling you. And this is where I kind of build that, hey, my clients, you're stuck with me for life. I joke with that from the beginning. And that's another chance I tell them, listen, in 5 years, when you call me to sell this house, I do not want that to be the time that I point out this negative thing and you go, well, that's great, Torie. Why didn't you tell me that 5 years ago, right? So I'm going to be dissecting that house and pointing out things that may potentially impact them. And again, I tell clients, I'm not here to sell you a house. I'm here to match you up to the right property and to listen to the things that matter to you and keep you on track for that. So literally last night, I had to have a discussion with a client that they didn't get the home of their dreams, in their opinion. Now, we all know that there will be another home of their dreams because that's just real estate, but they were reeling. And I liken it to the fact, and I told her this because her and I have had other joking conversations, but I told her, you know, basically right now you're rebounding, right? And I don't want you to rebound to the wrong property. We need to keep you on track. They were ready to go put an offer in on a property that was completely opposite of what they wanted. So I just had that discussion with them and it sounded something like this. Listen, I know that this was crushing for you and not getting this home was a really big deal for you. And I understand that because I know how much this purchase means to you. But I do confidently believe that we're going to find this. It just is not on the market right now today, but it doesn't mean it won't be on the market tomorrow or next week. We're not in a super big time crunch. And if you go and we go look at these other homes and you buy something in an HOA, not on land, which is the exact opposite of you wanted, you're going to be unhappy with me and you're going to be unhappy with that purchase because that's specifically everything against what you guys said you wanted. Now, I'm happy to show it to you, but let's talk about this. Are we still on the same page that having land and having no HOA is one of the most important factors? And she said, yes, it is. And I said, then why are we going to go the extreme opposite way? We've barely been at this a couple weeks. This is not by any means, you know, that this property isn't going to come up. every expectation that you have with your price point and with what you're looking for is reasonable. And I told her if it wasn't, I would tell you, because I don't need to waste your time or mine trying to find something that doesn't exist. And clearly it exists because there's been at least one property that we've liked, and there's been a few that were under contract already. So keeping them on track and making sure they know throughout the entire process they are your number one priority. It's not getting that commission check and selling them any old house. It's listening to what's important to them, keeping them on track of what's important to them. And when things can get emotional, you being that non-emotional factor and bringing them back to the facts and showing them, I'm here, but these are the things you said that were super important. Are we still on that same track? And letting them tell you, yes, we are. And then they come to that conclusion that you're right. This, going down this other path is exactly opposite of what we want. And we'd feel like we were taking a step backwards. Now, there's other times you have to have very real discussions with buyers. I want a newly remodeled 4-bedroom, 2-bath in Scottsdale, and I want it for $350. Yeah, good luck, right? And I'm going to have that discussion because I don't need practice driving people around to properties that don't fit what they want or wasting their time thinking that they're going to see a home in that price point that's not going to happen. So I have a realistic discussion with them. Guys, one of the reasons you came to me is because I know this market incredibly well, and we need to have a realistic discussion whether we've got to adjust our budget or we have to adjust our desires. So let's look at what 350 buys you in the zip code that you're looking at. And we pull it up, and I do it right in front of them, right? And this is part of that buyer consult. And if it's swirling and it says results 2 or 0, it's very clear to them they're not going to find a home with everything they want in that area. So then when we talk about what's most important, if it's budget, then we meet the budget and we find areas that will be able to accommodate their budget. But going over that with them in person, it's very crucial that they can see for themselves. And then as you make adjustments, it starts to pop up how many properties are calculating in their search criteria. And then if you really have that buyer who's like, nope, we're going to find it, again, staying in front of them. And then usually in a couple of weeks, they're going to go, let's open up my search to this, this, and this. Because like you talked about in the beginning, we're not finding much inventory. Let's go ahead and do this to make it happen. But having that know of what the dollar buys. If somebody came to you and you're not educated on that and they said that same criteria and you go, oh yeah, I can find that tomorrow. In a week from now, they're going to be pretty frustrated with the fact that you were incorrect and you said you were a market expert, but you weren't. You didn't know the facts. And obviously that's an extreme, but going down to knowing the market and knowing the areas that you're working in and knowing what you can expect to help people find. And that goes back to something you guys have heard me say if you watch my classes, data and knowledge. You have to be able to quote the data and the stats to be a market expert. Don't tell me that the market's hot without telling me why is it hot. Don't tell me that we're at short supply without being able to tell me we're at 1.95 months supply of inventory for the May statistics. And then be able to explain, we like to see 3 months supply of inventory to be balanced. We're at 1.95. Guys, that's low inventory. But I just took a data and a fact, and all of a sudden I became not an opinion. I became a data, fact, market expert, right? And being able to do that with everything. So when somebody says, hey, I'm new to this market, can I go in and offer 20% below the list price? And it's a price point is selling above. Well, statistically, 23% of properties so far in June have sold above list price. Telling them that data and having the April, the May, the June to back that up, that's going to put them knowledgeable, educated, and not just an opinion. When you have a buyer who's uneducated on our market, it's your job to educate them with numbers. Having an uneducated buyer on the market, that's fair. They don't know. They're not here. Maybe it's their first home. Maybe they live here, but they have no clue. Going through and showing them the data and where we're at as a market whole, that's everything. Kelly just asked where I get my data. A ton of sources. So I rely on my power partners. So I rely on Chris heavily. Lawyer supports the Cromford report. I believe it's monthly, I think. I talk to Chris weekly, so it's hard. I get numbers from Chris every week as well. And then I pull MLS data. So we talked about this before on the coronavirus. We're still pulling numbers, active pending and sold every single Monday to Monday, looking at what the market did in a 7-day period, active pending close. And we're going over that Monica, Chris Medina is my lawyer's title rep. Obviously, lawyer's title is one of the power partners with my home group. They do have a rep specific. So I would definitely encourage you, if you guys are not working with your power partners from my home group, get with them. Having, you guys, on the last class, I pitched this heavy, having the power partners behind you. I'm not a lending expert, but I'll tell you what, after talking with Sammy and Lizzie, I sound a lot more educated on, being an expert, but I revert that back to them. So I can quote some numbers and stuff from them, but then I revert back. Oh, you have those questions for the lender. Let me get you in touch with them, because you know what? I am really good at real estate and that's my expertise, but my lender's amazing and that's her expertise. Let me get her on the phone with you. But still having that data. And when it comes to our market, knowing the numbers. And then also too, again, so MLS, you can pull the Cromford, and then just there's a ton of sources again through your power partners.
Bend legs, bend your knee, bend your knees.
Gotta love Zooms. So I think I answered that. Did everybody? Yep. Okay. So title is something that they can pull a lot of statistics for you, both on the educating yourself part, but getting into the MLS and doing that. Don't watch the news. That's like the worst source. Do not watch the news. I cannot stand the things they report. It makes me crazy. I yell at the screen when I listen to them. So pull the actual data. Don't rely on someone else giving you their opinion. Rely on the numbers. That will never fail you. If you have the black and white data, you will not go wrong. And you can pull zip code, you can pull city code, you can pull many different things. The Cromford, you can subscribe to it. But again, if you don't want to subscribe to it, you don't have to, because if you power up with one of the title companies like lawyers, they will get you that data. And again, you'll be able to be a part of those Zoom classes that they hold every time with Tina Tambour and Cromford. So let me see where I am in my notes. Okay. The other thing is, again, now I've pitched myself to my clients that I'm a market expert. I know the numbers. I'm talking with them. If they're looking in Carefree, I'm going to pull specific Carefree numbers. All of the things, again, before I make a call to an initial client, I get prepared with what we're going to discuss. And I know kind of where they're looking, and we talk about that. But then the next thing is, there's not a client of mine that wouldn't tell you that they confidently know that I'm going to take care of every step for them. Meaning I can't control, and I tell them there's certain things I can't control, right? The lender's going to need documents. I can't get those documents for you, but every step I'm here. There's no question that's dumb. There's no question too small. There's no question that's too big. If I don't have the answer, I'll get it for you. And really being involved with that process. This is a very emotional process for buyers. Whether they're first-time buyers or seasoned, it's a very emotional process. Your job is to be the non-emotional factor. I had an agent tell me he has a hard time being non-emotional because he's passionate. Well, I'm passionate as the next guy, but you know what? If I bring my emotions to a file and for a client, I have lost every bit of who I am as an agent and the ability to look at the facts and to be able to educate them and get the process to the next step. The emotions in this are not going to get you anywhere. You can get all upset and up in arms, and it's not going to move the file forward. It's not going to take care of the client. Everybody has in the process things that happen that are irritating. Don't get me wrong. The time to have those is when you hang up and you whoever you're around, whether it be my assistant, my husband, my agents, that's when I'm like, the emotion comes out and everybody's like, oh God, watch out. But it's not the time when I'm negotiating the file or when I'm talking to the client. They need to know that I am in control of this thing, and I'm going to make sure that no matter what happens, I am on top of it. I can't always protect that bad things aren't going to happen through the process, but I can protect that I am looking out for you. You're my client. You're my number one priority. And I will do everything I can to make sure that this is a smooth process, you're protected, and that I am in control, making sure that you feel I've been on top of it every bit of the way. We assume sometimes, I think, when we talk to clients, hang on one second. Can you let her know? Client calling. Just let her know I'm doing this. I'll call right after. Okay. So the thing is that responsiveness, right? Like I am on top of these things. My clients know, and I, again, talk about this from the beginning. If I don't respond to a text or answer your call, it's because I'm in a meeting or with a client. And the same time that I give them, I give to all of my clients. So the minute I have the ability, I'm texting them back and I'm on the phone with them. Texts are pretty nice because if you get like where it's on your watch, you can respond quickly. If you're showing property and you happen to like turn the corner first, I'll watch. And if it's a quick text, I'll respond. With clients, call you as soon as I'm done. But being responsive, taking care of them, communication, having the data, these are all things that when they're shopping for agents, I am not afraid to sit down and say, I'd love to be interviewed. Even if they're not interviewing other agents, it tells them I'm not afraid. Pit me up against someone. I'll tell you how I stand out. Am I the right fit for every client out there? I try to adapt to most, but there's some that I know right away I am not the right fit, and I'm going to match them up to someone else on my team. So don't be afraid to do that. Like, if you guys aren't on a team, or, pair up with someone that hey, if I come across this person, that one client that I really don't think I'm a good fit for, can I refer them over to you? And I do realize that takes time, in your career to get to the point where you can work with the people you like as a general. But I do believe that a lot of people are obviously going to teams. Our team is something that I, really with every agent on the team, they not only get coaching, but we do have that family feel, and we're out looking out for each other, as well as, providing the best reputation we can for ourselves in the industry. So I think that if it starts from the very first touch with that client and they see your personality, what you specialize in, this is your passion, it's what you do, it's not a job, they're going to feel that. If you don't love this career, get out of it. Do yourself a favor. This is not a career that you can hate, or that you've got to look at as a job where you wake up and you're like, oh God, I got to show those clients, or oh God, I got to deal with these clients. The reality is this career will take 7 days a week, and it will take all day long, 7 days a week. It will take a lot of time and a lot of effort. But you know what? If this is your passion, you wake up, and I'm thrilled. Every day I'm like, man, we get to tackle today. If you don't love this career, consider a different one. You got to love what you do, because the people are going to feel it. And if they feel that they're a burden or they're a headache, they're already thinking that in their minds, like, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. I hear that so many times, like in the beginning with a client. After a little bit, they go, you know what? I already know I'm not a bother, because I've pitched to them many times, you are not a bother. This is my job and I love it. I'm here for you. You can ask me the same question 10 times. It's okay. This isn't something you do every day. It's what I do. And the funny thing is, you'll hear from clients enough times, I don't know how you handle this. I would never be able to handle the stress. But you do it with a smile, and you know that they're your priority. And then at the end of it, they know that you really did truly care about the process. You did not care about the commission check. You've got to care about them and every step of the way. Is there any questions that you guys have? Today's questions have been quiet. Last time I had about 15 minutes of questions. And if you guys attended any of my classes, you know I talk pretty fast. So I like questions because it helps me fill the time. Is there anything that I can help? Oh, yeah, selling commission discounts when asked. That's a good one. And you're hearing that a lot, because so we're referring to listings. Is that correct, Elizabeth? I think that's what you're asking about. Oh, setting commission discounts when asked. Elizabeth, do you want me to tackle this on the listing side or on the buy side? Listing? Perfect. All right. So when I meet with a seller, number one, I'm going to be prepared to tell them what my proposition is as a listing agent and what I do different. We talked about this briefly. I don't sit down with a well prepared out presentation. I think that bores clients for the most part. If I get somebody that I think a PowerPoint would be best for, I do have one prepared. But really, I go in and I talk with them, and I tell them what I'm going to do in my marketing, what they can expect from me on a daily, weekly basis, how we market our listings, how we handle our listings, what my team is comprised of, is open houses a factor. I talk about every detail of that. That's my very first conversation. The other thing on listings that I try never to do is quote an adamant list price in the field right then there today, especially if they're comparing you with other agents. The reason for that is I usually come in with a price range. Okay, so let's say I come in and I go, I'm somewhere between 350 and 400, or maybe it's 375 and 400. I come in with a general idea by researching the comps, and I do a lot of research on the listing. So I go there prepared with the area and data. And then when I'm there, we talk about that and I tell them, obviously I can't set a price until I see the home. Now that I've seen the home, I'm going to go back and I'm going to dig into those comps again, and I'm going to dig out every dollar I possibly can. So I really put emphasis on me, my process, what they can expect. And many times I don't even discuss commissions. Now I do run net sheets. That's where I have an app. Lawyer's Title has an app. I literally will run a net sheet at the end of that presentation. Okay, let me run this for you. So if we sold at 375, what loan amount do you have on that? Great. Let's just presume right now it's, near the end of June or mid-June. I'm going to presume that we're closing July 30th, and let me get your taxes. Okay, this would be your net. And I show them that. And then obviously if they ask about commissions, we talk about it. And I present commissions like this. I charge 3% for me, my team, all of my marketing, and all the staff that we just talked about. Everything that we're going to do for you, I charge 3%. I then offer the buyer's agent a 3% commission, or whatever that is that we've set. And I explain that to them because, again, we can't assume that they understand that it's split. There's many clients I talk to that are like, oh, so you get the whole 6, or you get the whole 5, or you get the whole 7. And yes, I have charged 7% for listings. And yes, I've landed it. And I've had no problem. And yes, there's buyers I've charged 3.5% on. Is that as likely right now, writing offers in today's market? Not as likely, no. But I have done it, and I've done it this year. So if that commission gets brought up and they say, well, so-and-so said they would discount it down. Number one, you have to make a business decision at the end of the day. Everything I do in my business it comes down to a business decision, and I calculate. I don't just fly off the cuff with an answer, but here's what I tell them right away. I understand that another agent may be willing to discount their commissions. I can tell you that most agents sell 2.6 homes per year. That's the average agent will sell 2.6 homes per year. So if you're only selling 2 to 3 homes per year, you absolutely are desperate for every sell. Do you think that somebody who's willing to discount their own money without thought is going to protect your money first and foremost? Do you think they're going to fight for your money in an offer? Do you think that they're going to fight for your money when a lowball offer comes in? If they don't care about their own money, do you think they're going to care about yours? And secondly, do you think that at a cut commission, they're going to be able to do all of the things that I just explained to you we're going to do? And I let them answer that. And obviously 9 times out of 10, it's no. Do I think there are times when you have to cut commissions? Absolutely. Okay. Again, I make a business decision when doing so. I never take a blanket approach. Oh, you're buying and selling with me? Cool. I'll discount. I don't do that because my time and what I'm offering them and the fact that I'm going to fight and get them the most money we possibly can and the best offer, that's worth something. So I had a buyer just last month. She had bought with me. She then sold with me and she bought with me again. And the buy sell this time around was close to $1 million combined. I didn't discount it and she didn't ask me to. She knew what my worth was. But if you get that, there are times I do think that, yeah, you're going to have to take it. I took one last month as well. They were a Facebook ad. We ran a targeted Facebook ad. The challenge with him was he was signed at 2.5 and then $1,000 flat fee. So 2.5 buy side, 1,000 flat fee. I got him up to 5%. I was pretty happy with that. But also at that time, I made the business decision that the Facebook ad cost me $100. I just got this listing from it. It's worth it to me. I was willing to do that. But at the same time, I don't take a flat approach. Did that answer that for you, Elizabeth? I can't wait to have interaction in a classroom. Oh, I like the interaction. You're welcome. Is there any other questions? We've got about 9 minutes left. I think these two are very important things. You guys, at the end of the day, getting someone to work with you and setting yourself apart against every other agent out there is very important. And if I couldn't sit you down and you tell me why you need to know why you need to know what your proposition is, what your standout is. How are you going to set yourself apart? Those are things that I think you know are very important topics. And do you all know the data? I don't leave, so in writing, I have a pamphlet. I shared it with you guys last time. It's a trifold. Do we have one handy? My assistant's gonna run behind me so I can show you what I leave with them. These are for the listing side of things. So I've created a brochure that I think is nice and it leaves just enough So this is the trifold that I do, where it's got, some photos, talks about who we are as a team. Trying to make sure I can show you. And it's just got details of what we do. And then on the back, it's got all of my marketing, where they've got the QR code and then my social platforms. And again, leaving something like this, it costs what, a couple bucks a piece, right? This to me is a lot more powerful than something that was cheap to print out. But it shows them that everything that I've just talked about and how we set ourselves apart, we have all of our social platforms. That's part of my marketing pitch. And this looks a lot more professional to me with the QR code and all of our details for social. So those are things that I leave behind. There's so many, I have flexed with this through the years of like adapting to, do I do a full PowerPoint? Do I do a whole box of things? What do I do? Now, there are, I think, some cool little pop buys you can do if you're farming a neighborhood and you're targeting listings. One of the things that I like is you could get some little puzzles, and they can have like your logo or your name or whatever your marketing piece is. And the one piece you leave out is the piece with like your logo on it, where it's like, most of it, but it's got one missing piece. And you could do like, the missing piece to selling your home is this, and then you mark it and bringing that to them personally. There's a bunch of fun little things you can do there. But if I'm meeting with someone, for the most part, I've got my foot in the door. I want to leave them something professional, and then I'm going to follow up with them. And I always set a definitive time to follow up. Anything else? We've got 6 minutes. All right. So I think, did I cover everything for everybody? My marketing materials. So I have a bunch of sources as far as preparing my marketing materials. I tend to talk to my lender, my title rep. I have a coach that I go with, that I go after with them. And then my assistant will take it and she makes it personal to us. So we have I would say a specific touch to all of our marketing materials. And we just revamped. Again, we talk about adapting. We just revamped all of our buyer packets to have that same look of like this modern, clean touch that we do. So yeah, so that's there. And then this is just another trifold brochure that we leave with buyers. Again, we kind of take and adapt a bunch of different things we look at, and then we make it feel like our logo. So the buyer consult, somebody just asked if I always have it first in the office. I prefer to have it in the office because when I'm setting up a search, I've got my big screen to do that with them, especially if it's a first-time buyer that the price point's going to be a challenge. You can literally show them what inventory is coming up with their details. But no, you don't always, especially like if you've got a buyer who came in and it's a Zillow or it's a Realtor.com or some other online lead source, you don't always have the ability to sit down with that buyer. Sometimes you're like, you got to get in front of them. I prepare a little packet that we have in the field that we do that mini buyer consult right there in the field. And then my agents and myself are trained to say to them, hey, I know that we're here and we just saw this home. I'd love to go sit with you. Now, again, we had to adapt this when we couldn't go sit at a restaurant or a Starbucks or whatever. But we then try to get that buyer consult the very next meeting before we look at other properties, because getting in front of them is crucial. And then getting the details and defining out the process is what I believe will start the process the way it should be. You guys are very welcome. I love seeing that this helps you guys, because this is something that part of my passion with this career is not just my clients, but my whole team. The reason that the agents that are on my team is because they're people that have come to me and I really believe have the potential for strong growth. And I love walking through that growth process and seeing somebody achieve their goals. Thank you, Kathleen. I miss you. I have to see you soon. So you guys, we are about 4 minutes left. Is there any last minute questions before we're done? If so, I'll give you just a second. I'm going to pop up the social platform. If you guys want to follow me, I do a video series. We joke in the Tom Ferry organization, right? Rip off and duplicate. You can R&D, but I think that video is crucial too, as setting yourself as a market expert in video and social media. So I do a podcast and a video series every Thursday. My assistant's going to try to screen share here with our social. Feel free to follow us, watch our Insta. what is that me or is it? Nope. Okay. That's mine. There's all of our platforms. You can follow me. I'm going to give you my cell number if you need it, 602-824-2196. We are looking for one more seasoned agent and one newer agent at minimum, potentially two newer agents. If you guys know of anyone, we'd love to chat with you. But other than that, you guys, thank you so much for joining this class. I do look forward to the next one. Thank you. I do talk fast, so I'm glad you appreciate that. But anyhow, you guys, if you need anything, that's my cell number. We're here if there's any follow-up material or questions you have. And I hope you guys go and crush the rest of your day. And next time, we will see you on the next class. Before I present one, if you guys, as always, my cell number real quick, 602-824-2196. And Kelly will be sending out a survey, and it will give you a chance to give some feedback, but also if there are some additional topics you'd like to see, we'd love to go over that with you. And I guess that's it. So until the next time, I hope you guys go out. You've got a lot of time left to make Monday amazing.
Thanks, Torie.